We know a lot of things and we know nothing at the same time.
We out here, everybody. I don't know what episode this is. We're going to figure out. I mean, we had so many episodes deleted. Thank you, internet lords.
It's around 80.
Thank you, internet lords.
It's somewhere around 80.
80. Probably. No, I mean, yeah, it might be 90. Who knows?
No, yeah, maybe like between 80 and 90.
Damn.
And it could have been way higher if we weren't a little bit distraught, disgruntled, and disappointed by the Stockholm syndrome, whatever. What's up, Jerome? What's going
good,
on?
Armav?
We had pretty
Chad.
powerful conversations last night already.
Yeah.
Maybe we can pick up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were saying a lot about New York, and now you're being recorded, so I don't know how much you still want to say. All
Who's
that
the
stuff.
worst person that you could possibly think of to work with? And
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding. We won't do that.
Hey, hey, don't get me started. This mic is a powerful thing. I feel like I have a lot of power, so I could just disrupt all of reality right now.
Good.
That mic is troublesome, right?
It is. It is.
Okay, well, let's get into
I'll
some
be on
trouble.
my best behavior.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what
So
happens.
what were you talking about last night?
And state of the music industry. We're one of the conversations that we were having. I don't think it was last night, but last week. And I was telling people, like, being in New York is great. Let me just start off by saying that. Despite all its, flaws and, all the other things you have to do, it's great for, the work that I do is fulfilling for me. So for that, I like New York. But if it was music aside, the city itself, and even when we talk about, the industry itself, it's not as glamorous as people think it is. My life is not always a joyride. So, it's a lot of moving pieces. It's not even, and it's not even about, playing, just playing itself. You would think it should be about that, but a lot of times it's not. And this is about whether people like you or not, or other people in the band not liking you. Sometimes the artist is not selecting the musicians that they want in their band. I can tell you, like, I'll give an example. There was a time I was supposed to be on an album on a certain label, and I was really looking forward to it because it would have been at least my first time recorded as a sideman with a major artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew about the gig for months, and probably about 3 weeks or so before the recording date, and it was supposed to be a live recording date, the owner of the label calls me, who I didn't even know who he was at the time, or who the owner was or anything. Wasn't even thinking about it. And funny enough, I was on my way. I was going to class. I was attending Juilliard at the time. And he calls me, and, I was giving this long speech. And then he was like, yeah. And all I heard was, we're going to go in a different direction. And I'm off, the recording session and the gig, basically. Now, thankfully, this person still paid me. So I'm grateful for that. But, as someone, I think at the time I was 25 or 26. And, for me, and really anyone who would have had this opportunity that is my age or younger, it's more about the experience itself. Like, I'm just looking at it, it's like, wow, I get to play with this person that I've, look up to since I was a kid, starting out in this music. And now that, dream is being taken away from me, all because I'm not popular enough, or I'm not this, I'm not that. It had nothing to do with me sounding good or bad. So it's a really hard reality to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm grateful to have the thick skin that I have to deal with that type of BS. But a lot of people can't deal with it. Hence, why you won't see them in those environments, but that doesn't mean as musicians that they're less than people who choose to deal with it, per se.
So it was a personality thing, kind of.
Oh
It's
yeah, it's well, it couldn't have been because like I said, I didn't even know the owner of the label. I had no idea who he was. I never met him
So you
before.
think it's a numbers thing?
Yeah, I think it was a numbers thing. Well, I think it was about a name. Just like, oh, you need to have, and it's really like an old mentality, and it's existed for a while in the industry. Even if you want to talk about back in the day, like some of the records that you probably know and love, they were just bands put together by the label or whoever, and you'll never see them that same iteration play live, for example. So that was basically what happened to me. And it was funny because the band is like an all-star band. It was like a bunch of big names, and even now when I look back at it, it always it looks even more dumb to me because I'm like, okay, this band was it's a 7-piece band. Yeah, about 7 people. And I don't think anyone would have been like, "Oh man, you got all these big names here and we don't know who this drummer is, so we're not going." I don't think anyone would have said that. If anything, it would be like, "Oh, who's the drummer?" And then they would have their opinion of me. They would probably say he sucks or or he's good. Either way, it's introduction. I would have, or at least I would have seen that as like my introduction into, a larger audience through someone who was established.
It might be a double-edged sword because here, on one hand, is like this. Back in the day, there's no social media, so how are you going to get your metrics up? Well, you're not. You're gonna do it old school.
Yeah.
You're gonna show your demo tapes. You're gonna have crowds coming to see you. That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're really heavy on the metrics. Everything is metrics, and it's kind of true because it's about money equals attention, attention equals money. That's how they're thinking. But it's double edged because it's like, well, you're free to try to do it. You're free to go on Instagram, Facebook, do it, TikTok, and do all that thing.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk. The least talked about thing in that world is and I don't want to sound corny, but it's mental health. Because being a social media person there's no aspect of it that is good for your mental health.
No.
And why is that?
Well, for one, it's not the real world. And I think, at least for me, when you get so caught up, you're detaching yourself. You're detaching yourself from nature, for one, and your body knows it. So, and you're replacing certain things like you're having a dopamine effect in your brain when you're seeing things, and you're basically reacting to whatever you see. So you might see something that like a rage bait makes you very, very angry. Then in a split second you see something else is funny, so you laugh. But then when it's like you're
Right.
when you're glued to that screen,
Yeah.
to the point where, and you're having like somewhat of a human experience, I guess, but you're not interacting with nobody. It shows, and really it doesn't show as you're doing that. It shows when you actually have to interact with people when you go out.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. Like for me, it's depressing to be on social media all the time, and just because you feel like that's what the real world is. Like I tell people, like in society, I was like, man, every time I go on Instagram, I'm always seeing some videos about like women being like, oh, men are the problem, men suck. My man need to make this much, or if he ain't making this much, he broke. It's like all this other, clickbaity type things. And, I was like getting upset by it. So then one time, I said I was okay, I'm going to just delete Instagram off my phone. I'm not going to deal with it. And I stayed off for about 2 months, and the first month it was kind of weird because I'm already an introvert as it is. A lot of people don't know that because obviously around you guys I know you, so I'm comfortable just talking and being very social. But strangers, I'm kind of like, stay away from me. But as I was, being a little bit more social than I usually am, I kind of noticed, like, you know what? It's not really what I'm seeing. But I think, the internet lords or the algorithm, they purposely feed you a lot of toxic stuff that would, I guess, really cast doubts on, the good in people.
Yeah.
And yes, it really does a lot of damage to your mental health. At least that's what it does for me. It's like it makes me kind of see the worst before I see the good in people right off the bat. Other people, it might be different, but for me, it's kind of like, man, like everybody's so messed up, and you interact with people. It's like, well, everybody's not as messed up as you think they are.
Chad, I want to give you the floor, but I want to say something because I'm gonna forget. So, I've always been very into psychology stuff.
hmm
Not that I wanted to be a psychologist, but I think that the phenomenon of the fact that we often don't even understand ourselves
Yeah.
or our brain or what's going on with it. I find it extremely ironic, even that we're in ourselves, but we're not even aware of ourselves a lot of times. So that it's been an instrument for me. But so I noticed that, for example, there's a famous guitarist, YouTube guitarist. He has a very large channel, and he came out very recently, and he admitted to everybody, he's like, by the way, guys, like I've been diagnosed with bipolar, and this is what it means. It means that when you see me uploading all the time and being really happy and prolific on YouTube, that I'm usually in a manic state. So I'm not sleeping for days at a time or eating, and I have like superhuman focus and energy, but then that's followed with a hard depressive cycle. So that's kind of like the thing about bipolar is that you have like a week of super productivity. You seem like the most successful person on the planet, and you're on the camera all the time and you're doing it, right? And then it's followed by extreme depression. So he explains, he's like, the reason I have all these subscribers is because I obsessively did this until I got to that point, but I never addressed what was going on the inside. So it's interesting that he basically transmuted his mania and his mental health toward something productive, but it never resolved the issue.
Yeah.
And I think that there's more of that going on than we'd like to admit. It's hard to sit there for 8 hours on your computer recording and editing unless you're super obsessed about it. And I'm not saying that obsession requires mania and to be bipolar, but oftentimes it kind of goes hand in hand, or it creates that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I recently saw something where, kind of forget, but in the gist, it's saying that too much of an obsession, like intense obsession, would be the downfall, especially when you're trying to go towards a goal. Oh, actually, now it's coming back to me. It said if you have an obsession towards a goal, you're actually hampering yourself from getting to that goal.
Because you're too attached to it.
Yeah, you're too attached, like you needed to work. And at least for me in my life, I remember when I moved to New York, there were like a lot of people who I really wanted to play with, and I really was obsessed. Like, I would, learn the music, learn it by ear, try to memorize it. I would, a lot of sleepless nights just trying to get what I can. And then, and then I'd say, okay, I want to learn the music. Then I'm going to meet this guy or this other musician. And, I'm going to be like, yeah, I know your music and I want to play it. And, then that musician would, let me sit in. And then and there were embarrassing moments when I sort of flopped, because now I'm like, oh shit, like it's happening. And then other times, I felt like I did well, all things considered. But a lot of opportunities that came my way, and the best opportunities that came my way, is the things that I didn't really prepare for. But I guess I was preparing for them all at the same time because, I was just doing what I was doing. But I just never imagined like, oh, this person was checking me out and I happen to know that person's book or repertoire. And those opportunities were more long lasting than the ones that I was trying to manufacture for myself because of my obsession,
Wow. Come on,
Yeah.
Pastor.
Hey, don't get me started.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like the things that are always like the most organic,
Mhm.
that happen just totally organically, is usually how it goes. Because if you're always like saying to yourself, "This is gonna happen," or "I'm trying to make something happen," typically doesn't.
Yeah.
In a certain context, of course, but and then something organic will happen. You'll be like, "Oh, that is why that happened."
Right.
Kind of like one door closes, another door opens,
Mhm.
but applied to whatever we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because definitely if you're like overthinking the music, preparing for whoever you're thinking about, then maybe you're gonna overthink it and flop, like you're saying,
Yeah.
or just I don't know.
I
be
think
too
what you
strong.
were saying though is a little different than. So here's so look. So wouldn't you say that in your moments of extreme practice, you were in obsession? It had to have been You
Yeah.
could call it obsession. That sounds kind of negative to say obsession,
Yeah.
but that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's why you got to where you're at. Like we all had to have those nights where we sleep in our base bags, et cetera, et cetera. I did it too. So that is obsession. And that's why a lot of young people can get into that
Mhm.
because they have that energy, they have that youth, they have that time.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that obsession is not required. I see
No,
the
yeah.
biggest leaders are obsessed. The biggest money makers or whatever the hell you want to call it, or Instagram hits, views, they're obsessed. I don't see it any other way. How else are you going to make a video that goes viral every single day unless you wake up and you do the work?
Yeah.
And that's not sitting around.
Right.
So it's just logically
There's like a good obsession.
there's a good obsession.
There's
Yeah.
a bad obsession.
Mhm.
Sophie actually just made a funny video on TikTok the other day.
Yeah.
Well, not her TikTok, but with her friend,
It was
and now it has 5 million views.
yeah.
Just
It was funny as
random,
hell.
totally random.
Yeah.
Charlie Puth
That was-
liked it.
That's awesome.
I want to see the video.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
Complete accident.
Yeah, I in moments like when I'm practicing, yes, there's a level of obsession, but obsession is
Maybe
because
like neuroses, like it turns into a neuroses.
yeah,
Like,
like
when
I'm
it's,
focused,
messing
on-
your spirit
don't
up.
let it turn into neuroses. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I'm focused on
Because we're
preparing
definitely
myself,
obsessed
like-
about music.
yeah, because I've been preparing myself for a gig. I'm playing with Vincent Herring at Keystone Corner in Baltimore with his band called Something Else. So he has a lot of music in the book for this project. So yeah, like I would practice, and obviously the goal is to be able to play the material very proficiently, and at least for me, try to memorize the music, even though he has like tons of songs in it. So there might be one song that he might pull out that I'm like, okay, I haven't memorized that quite yet. But then, when he sends the music, some of it could be MIDI tracks. Some of them is like an arrangement of a recording. So I listen to the original recording, and it always sounds good. Like right now, like we're playing a Chicoria version of CTA, and I think it's Dave Weckel
Mhm.
on drums. Someone could correct me on that later, but I believe it's Dave Weckel. But it's like it's a different vibe. It's not like your typical like straight ahead like hi hat on 2 and 4 ride cymbal type of thing. It's fusion, and that's fusion. Funny enough, is like not the most comfortable thing I'm at. So I'm like playing, and I'm playing along to the recording. And then that's when the obsession comes in, like the obsession with his sound. And I'm like trying to get to whatever that is. So usually what happens is, and this is not the only time this occurs, like I'm getting used to the sound. I'm trying to chase something. And then I have to get to a point where I have to stop listening to that track.
Yeah.
And
Gotta back up.
Yeah, and like go the opposite way, which is actually the hard part every time I'm learning a new tune that has been previously recorded.
There might be a technical reason for having to do that. That's
Mhm.
not just like arbitrary or woo-woo reason, which is that it seems that our brain is designed such that it needs time to marinate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we don't
Totally.
have like a computer per se. It's a very complex organ. So it simmers on the thought and it integrates it, and then the synapses literally form. There's videos are so interesting that people going through therapy and they're in an MRI machine and they have a deep electromagnet scanner on their neurons. And as they're changing their perception of an idea in their mind in real time with a person, the synapse changes.
Yeah.
It detangles, like literally detangles, and starts morphing into another one. It's nuts. So what are the implications of that? The implications are that our thoughts lead to physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that kind of seems obvious enough, but Chad, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say too, like when I feel like every time I learn, like maybe like transcribe something, there might be a day that happened a couple weeks ago. I was like, okay, I got it down today, and I want to record it today.
Uh-huh.
Did it, and it was fine. But then the next day, I was just playing for fun, and I just wanted to play it. It's like, oh, it's even so much better.
Yeah.
And like it had marinated in me totally. But also like you can feel it in your brain when you're like transcribing something or learning something, memorizing something, and bringing it up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel it keep integrating in your muscles or whatever it is,
Yeah.
neurons, which is also why I totally think that the slow practice thing is so good. Even if you can play it perfectly, it's just like slow and you're downloading it on every note and then building it in.
You know, one of my teachers, Victor Lewis, when I was studying with him at while I was attending the new school, he said the learning curve is not weekly, and which was he was telling me this as we were
It's astrological.
planning. Yeah, we were planning our lessons out. He was like, we're not going to meet once a week because you're not going to get the material once a week. So so I had 6 lessons with him. And basically what happened was he was like, okay, we're going to have this lesson. We're going to talk about, bunch of stuff. And he was like, and then, let's say give you 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. So basically once a month, and then show it again. And, the lessons carried over to the next semester because it was like a lot of space of time. And I wasn't used to that. Whereas, growing up in Houston, I was studying with, people like Joe Fulgham and Sebastian Whittaker once a week. And, even then I wasn't like necessarily learning what they were giving me once a week, but, I kept practicing every day and, was making steady progress. And, sometimes like I know with Bash, he would give me something and, it took me like 2 to 3 months to really get it together. But it was a slow journey that he was able to walk me through every step of the way. And then getting to the new school and having someone like Victor Lewis, who he wasn't like a, routine type of guy. And I say that in the sense of he's not like, oh, play this exercise and you should be able to do this or whatever. He was more like a conceptual type of dude. He was changing the way I think and sort of the way I viewed music. And it really took me a while to get it. Some of the stuff that he told me, then, which I think it was like 2016, 2017, it's like it's starting to make sense to me now.
Like what?
Well, for one, he was trying to get me to playing larger cymbals, or he encouraged me to explore the idea. I wasn't really much of a fan, and now I do that now, as you may know. And he was showing me how to use different parts of the stick to get different sounds, like using the like the shoulder of the stick and riding on that. And you know, when Victor Lewis does it, it's like it's great. It sounds natural, but you know, and I tried doing it at the time, and it just didn't sit right with me. And you know, sometimes in our lessons, we were, you know, just experimenting with these different sounds. It's like, okay, use this sound this time, or use this, use that, and I'll use them, but it didn't really have the searching for the word, and it's eluding me. It didn't. It just didn't have the feeling that I want, or I guess whatever I thought I was going for, it wasn't that. It just didn't feel natural. And you know, but a lot of things take time. And like now, you know, I do it now, but it makes sense to me now. It just didn't make sense to me then. And the thing is, it's like, okay, I was doing the exact same thing. It's like, okay, you take the stick, you hit this part of the cymbal, and it should make contact with this part of the stick. I'm doing the same thing. It's just now, you know, I'm a, you know, different person mentally. I've matured, and you know, I still remember those lessons, but now it's like it comes into fruition. So you said something earlier though about, you know, our mind is not a computer, which I think that's the real reason why social media is bad, because we're consuming things at a very fast and alarming rate. And you know, it's even to the point, like I don't know if y'all do this too, but you ever like look at reels? You don't even wait for the reel to finish. You just see it and like, oh, okay, I know what that's about.
Right.
Like, and our minds is just not designed to do that. We're, you know, our mind is ahead of our bodies for sure. You know, because you know it just stinks, and it's sending information to our bodies, and we just have to, you know, do the application. But our mind is not meant to process things that fast.
Yeah, not only that, what exactly is the benefit of consuming, like, in a span of 5 minutes, 100 videos?
Nothing.
What exactly?
It's kind of like, I feel like now we're in a place where...
A couple good jokes.
Yeah, a couple of good... No, I feel like we're in a place now where
But what did it
we know a lot. We know a lot of things, and we know nothing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point of consuming this, you know, knowledge? And a lot of the stuff we consume is already garbage anyway. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt like social media really created this culture of knowingly blissful ignorance.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I was talking to Danny about his daughter and what he noticed, and I also think I've spoken to other people like teachers. And what's interesting is that, yeah, there's a lot of brain rot, but like on some level, the kids these days are maturing faster because they're more exposed to stuff, and they even get snarkier earlier, and because they're like, oh, I know that, I've seen that.
I know. It's
so
sad.
They get all smart ass on you. And then it's like, but here's the deal. Yes, you may technically have exposure to more info, but you can't outbeat an older person on wisdom and experience, because you literally just don't have it yet. Yeah. You just literally haven't lived yet. And even if you think you're smarter than your parents, I will take your dad's 60-year-old advice over your 15-year-old advice any day, even if he's never been on a computer.
But you see, that's the thing, is in their minds they have lived it.
Right.
Something in their mind is telling them, like, yeah, and I see it too. I teach.
Yeah.
Taught at a middle school part-time last year and an elementary school. And it really baffles me what these kids are just seeing, what they just have access to. And I remember, like, me coming up, I wasn't allowed to have, okay, MySpace was a thing. I never had a MySpace. I never had Vine. My parents didn't allow me to have social media really up until I was in the 8th grade. And I remember, I think Instagram just came out, and, you know, I really had to convince my mom, like, please, can I have Instagram? All my friends have it. And, you know, they created an Instagram account, got a Facebook account, and then I think Snapchat. Those were like the big 3 at that time. And now it's like kids as young as, you know, like they're in the 1st or 2nd grade. Yeah. And it's weird, like I know someone because he has an older brother that's closer to my age that I went to school with, but his little brother starts following me, and I'm just like, what, what the heck? What's going on? like, why do you have an Instagram? But that's like a norm,
Yeah.
and and what's even more disheartening for me is seeing how kids consume music. Have y'all? I'm sure y'all know about TikTok mashup.
Yeah.
Actually,
So man,
know.
one day,
Tell me what. Yeah. Don't tell me.
huh?
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one time, the school in Queens, we did a performance, and for our activity, I was like, okay, well, let's just listen to music and talk about it, like why do we like it or why we don't like it, et cetera, et cetera. So I was playing them things I like to listen to, and I try to find something that I think that a fourth grader, because this was a fourth grade class, would find interesting. And obviously they weren't focused, so I decided to switch it. I was like, okay, show me what y'all listen to. And they said, well, play a TikTok mashup. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a song. That sounds like a compilation. And so I looked it up, playing it, and it's basically what I thought it was, a compilation, but not of songs, but like different parts of songs. And the song would play for like 10 to 20 seconds, and then it moves on to the next thing. And these kids, they knew the order of the compilation, they were dancing to it. But so then I asked them questions like, do y'all know where any of these songs comes from? Some of them they do, but like for example, one of the songs on there was "Say a Little Prayer," and I think it was a later recording of it from a musical movie called Trolls or whatever.
Mhm.
I was like, do y'all even know what the song is? They're like, no. It's like, y'all don't care? No. It's like, so why do y'all like listening? And then I asked them, do y'all just ever listen to a song start to finish? No. We just like to listen to the best part. We don't want to listen to the whole thing.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Now, granted, I've had professors complain about how we, like when iTunes started coming out, and streaming, we will just listen to a song out of the album and not listen
Right.
to the whole album. And, I thought that was bad myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, this is way worse. You won't even listen to the song, but you'll listen like the Say a Little Prayer part. It was like the main catch line, like
Right.
forever.
Right.
Like, and they knew that part, and then I showed them Aretha Franklin version, and they were like, not interested.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, it's I don't know, it's something about just them not being able to just sit down, listen, enjoy the music for
Mhm.
what it is. To me, that's just kind of, it's sad to see.
Did you look into how many of those kids potentially were on ADHD medication?
Oh, a lot of them.
A lot of them, right?
A lot of them.
What percentage would you say?
What percentage? Man, I really want to say all of them because that's all I hear
Wow.
hear these days. But I'm sure I'd say percentage.
So think about that.
Probably half of them.
Half.
Like, 'cause a lot
that's
of-
a
yeah.
conservative. That's like a safe guess. You're not.
That's a safe
exaggerating.
get. I don't
Okay.
know the stats
'Cause
at all.
yeah.
Don't
Well,
quote me.
I
I
see
do
it
not
a
know
lot.
the stats.
Because I talk to these teachers and they tell me my kids are on medication. They're
Mhm.
either on mood stabilizers or some form of ADHD medication,
Yeah.
or even antipsychotics in some extreme cases.
Mhm.
So, I remember an old friend a long time ago said, "Man, the humanity has always been mentally ill. We just noticed it." I'm like, that can't. I don't know about that. What do you think about that statement?
I disagree, and I'd say this as someone, I was diagnosed with ADD and not ADHD. It was just ADD. I was diagnosed at 5, 6. I was in kindergarten, and I didn't really know that I had it up until I went to a charter school. Since I was 2, it was like a daycare. Then it was elementary, and went up to middle school at the time. Shout out to Candy Strap Academy. So I remember going to a doctor. I never really knew why I was at the doctor, and I was supposed to solve a bunch of basic math problems and do puzzles and all that. then I go to what is now Meyerland Middle School, and I struggled, and that's when my mom told me, it's like, yeah, you've been diagnosed with ADD, and she told me like, oh, remember? I was like, yeah. So, but I never knew for all that time up until I got to the 6th grade. And and I asked my mom, like, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, you might have trouble focusing and staying on task and all that other stuff. So in my head, I just thought, oh, okay, so if I know how to do these things, then I'm not whatever I was
Right.
diagnosed with. So, and it was a hard struggle, like, not, and I don't think it was because I was diagnosed with ADD. I think it was because of the change of environment. I went from being in a place where we walked down one hallway and you had one teacher for every subject to a big school that looks like a community college campus, and you have 6 different teachers, and you have to go find them. You had lockers, you had band. It was like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on, and it was a lot more students too. So those environments, kind of like, it was hard to get used to, and I struggled a lot. But once I got used to it, it was like, okay, this is easier. I know how to manage
Yeah.
myself, and I was on medication during that time, and
Like
during
Adderall or something, or
I took Concerta, and then there was another one that was like it was a patch that you put on
Oh.
your hip. I forget what it's called, and I wasn't really a big fan of it, only because, well, for one, the Concerta, it suppressed my appetite, and I think it contributed to making it impossible for me to gain weight at the time. But I feel like that can also do with genetics. My dad is not like a big person.
yeah, consider also
yeah.
it lowers a lot of like kind of base
Mm-hmm.
instinctual, even like involuntary autonomic feelings, like even like a
Yeah.
sex drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and appetite.
Yeah. So I stopped, but once I understood, like, myself, in a sense of, like, especially in middle school, once I got serious about music, and I was like, all I cared about was playing drums. So I saw it as like, okay, I like playing music, but I have to do my academics, the math, science, social studies, and all that. So let me just do what I need to do here, and then I could go play my drums. And my parents wanted me to do well, have all A's, like any concerned parent would want for their kids, to do well in school. I didn't really care about that, so I did what I had to do to please them. Got my B plus in algebra 2, got my A in social studies, and blah blah blah. And then I went on to practice, and that was the music. I turned my love for music as the motivator, to be focused,
Yeah.
and all that. But I think maybe there's a validity to ADD or ADHD, but I think it's mainly about how you choose to go about it, how the parents choose to raise their kids in dealing with these, I don't know what you want to call it, cognitive issues, or in terms of like staying focused, and making sure you're taking care of business.
Mhm.
Now, and even though I was diagnosed with ADD, the one thing I would say, which much credit to my parents, is that they didn't allow that to be much of an excuse, and they wouldn't allow me to make that an excuse. And what I see a lot from parents today, like, I teach at a music studio, and I'll do the lesson. The lesson is like 30 minutes, and most of the students have uh, ADHD, or they're on the spectrum, and I would tell them their assignments, like, okay, this is what we worked on, and like, so work on this, and I'm going to listen to this on the next week. and I'll inform the parents about what we did. And a lot of times, the parents would see me explaining all this stuff, music stuff, and all that. It's like, yeah, like I want him to have this down for next week, and then they will say, well, he has ADHD, so don't expect much, or he
Wow.
has autism, so don't expect much. Which, like I said, I'm very understandable to that, and yeah, because that they have their issues, just like I had my own challenges when I was dealing with it. But it's kind of sad to see people use that as a crutch to not want their kids to just exceed whatever adversarial
Yeah. Also,
circumstance that they may have.
let's just be frank, okay? If now you're telling me the majority of those kids are on something, right?
Yeah.
So what the hell is that? If you're in an environment where you need to drug up all the people in there, are the people the problem or the environment? I don't know what the hell is going on.
I
Like, that
think,
doesn't make no sense. Like, if I have to be drugged up to be somewhere,
yeah.
that don't sound right. What do you think?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I-
This is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I was gonna say I feel like the ADHD thing is more of a maybe more of a construct thing based on the environment
Mhm.
because it's like it is hard for a kid to be in a building for 8 hours and like
Yeah.
constantly
It's absurd,
grinding.
Yeah, it's not natural.
Yeah,
And-
it's kind of like prison.
Yeah.
It is kind of like prison, and also think about is an environment in which you got to be drugged up, you got to be in a seat on your butt all day, and you're doing arbitrary work, a lot of it busy work, not focused on what you want to do, not really compound interesting on the skills and strengths of that particular person, but then just making them go through a factory system, motions and motions and motions. What does that do? That creates a little worker bee. That does not create a person with creativity and ambition necessarily. You're just creating a person that's really good at regurgitation. Now, in some rare cases, you're going to have those ones that see that and understand that, maybe just on a guttural level, and they do their own thing, and those are the outliers.
Yeah.
But surely we can still have a better environment in which at least a few more or a larger percentage of kids are actually getting a benefit from it.
Yeah. I agree. I really think it's environment because, like I said, I didn't notice the changes once. Like I said, I went to a charter school. I was there since I was 2 years old, and I left after the 5th grade. So it's like that's all I knew, and I was used to that. I was comfortable, and now I'm dropped in from a predominantly uh, Black and Hispanic school. Now I'm in this multicultural school with thousands of students. This school is so big, they have what they call 3 houses. So you have a principal, and then there's different houses, and each house has a certain amount of students. Each house has its own principal and assistant principal and their own administration.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like very, very overstimulated. And I mean, and I'm still like that today. I don't like being in super crowded places, which is ironic given our profession that we chose.
Yeah.
We have to deal with crowded places. But if I don't have to deal with it, I don't want to. I like, being in small, intimate places, chill, where there's not a lot of moving things going around. That's usually my ideal place. So yeah, it took time to deal with that. And, I think it's really more about the environment because it's almost like, you ever seen that picture when it's like a bunch of animals and there's a tree and I guess there's a teacher and he says, okay, your first test is climb this tree. And you see the fish in a bowl, and the fish is like, I can't do that. Like that fish in the bowl is gonna fail and die if you
Right.
manage to get out the bowl and climb the tree.
Yeah.
So, but it's so I definitely believe it's the environment sometimes, and I don't know, maybe schools should focus more about sometimes the individual rather than trying to conform everybody to, I guess, your will. Like I do think there's value in, learning how to follow orders,
Yeah.
learning how to, contribute to the greater good of society. And I think in those aspects, yeah, those are things you can learn in school, that you should learn in school. At least I felt like I've learned that. But at the same time, like when it comes to, I guess, individual progress, you have to solely focus on the person, and that takes more of an effort. And I say that, as a teacher, someone who has worked with kids, you really have to understand how they work, what would make that person very productive. Now, I can't save everybody, but I try to do what I can. And once you figure that out, I think you would do a lot of good for that child's education who happens to have ADHD or autism or what's the OCD, whatever. It's all about how people choose to go about it. I don't really even take the whole diagnosis all that seriously, because all that tells me is, oh, okay, someone likes things to be a certain way, and now they probably have to learn when things don't go their way, and they will probably be able to manage life easier.
Yeah, I was watching a video the other day, and they were talking about the mental asylums in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And it was for people that were not well adjusted to society. And he was like, well, what does that mean? Like, that means we have to adjust to something. Like, we're adjusting to something, and some people are worse at adjusting to something.
Yeah.
And why are we adjusting to something? So I feel like that's exactly what we're talking about too. Like, can people adjust? I feel like there are some people who they can coast through things pretty easily, evolve, be like, I don't like it, but I'll do it, get it out of the way. But then there are other people, maybe they're the ones that are diagnosed with ADHD, for example, that like have trouble adjusting to the setup infrastructure that is not set up to our benefit. And also there's always the prescribed like curriculum and government curriculum of school and all that kind of stuff. So getting around that is pretty tough. That's why I feel like if I have children, I don't think they're going to school.
Two things.
Not at all.
I kind of agree with what he just said, the last thing. But two things. Here's what's interesting. Mother Nature is so smart. Let me explain. You can put pressure on humanity. You can even put them through dire circumstances, or even do it covertly, like having an insidious system of like creating cogs for a machine. But here's what's fascinating. If you put more pressure on humans, they get stronger. If you make things worse on them, there's a safety mechanism in evolution where they overcome. So even if you try to make it really bad on humanity, Mother Nature's like, okay, we'll evolve. And that's what ends up happening. That's why that's why people go against things eventually once they can't handle it anymore, right? That's how diamonds are made. That's how like Mike Tyson is made, his story. So it's like a safety mechanism for destruction. That's like the old adage of like good always wins. It's like that's part of the reason.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that I have seen, in my opinion, what I would say is actual mental illness, undeniable mental illness in which the person becomes a harm towards themselves and the world. We're talking about like severe hallucinations, violence, dropping out of school, having destructive relationships, just insane behavior. And at that point, we're talking about something going on with that person. That person really needs help at that point. But as far as attention deficit and stuff, we got to mitigate a little bit of that and be more realistic, I think.
We need to teach people how to think. Like, I had a job interview one time, and they asked what was my goal. It's like I'm here to teach students how to think for themselves. And I told them, like, we're in an era where pretty much everything that we want is basically spoon-fed to everybody via the internet. It doesn't really matter if you're rich or poor. In a sense, I mean, not exactly, but if you want to know something, you can figure it out. You can literally educate yourself. But the problem is is that because we have easy access, we just don't know what to do with it. Now, mind you, this is a little going a little out there, but I'm going to go there anyway.
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln, autodidact. Man grew up poor. I was watching this documentary on him. Like, the man grew up poor and just read a bunch of books, became a lawyer, became a representative, then eventually becoming president. And this man had limited access. He just took what he can. Now here we are. Everybody should be on that type of level of genius.
Right.
But because it's just so easily given to us, we don't know what to do. And I told him, like, I'm not in the business when I teach, and my students, the people who have studied with me know this, I'm not in the business of giving you answers. And the people who taught me never really gave me answers, direct answers. But what they did for me, or the best thing that they done for me, is taught me how to find the answers for myself. And I told them the reason why I'm like that is because, one, I'm not going to be here with you forever. And so when I'm not around, you should be at a level where if you had a question, you can do the digging and get to that answer. Now, chances are, you might come across something that may be a little bit too complicated. And then, yeah, maybe I'll help. I'll see where you at, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, go here, or check this out, read this, do that.
Yeah.
But like for example, with my students, like, I will teach them how to read, like playing quarter notes. I told them, like, I'll show them this is how it sounds, and then I was like, let's clap it. Now it's like, and then I'll like guide them. And then I remember one student, because he got attached to me, like pointing at the music so that he's playing and he's seeing how it goes along. And I said, all right, now you're gonna do it by yourself. Kid was like, what? No, I can't. I was like, listen, and he was like fighting me on this, like, because he didn't want to do it completely on his own. I was like, listen, I'm gonna be right here, but look, you're gonna have a recital coming up. I'm not gonna be on that stage with you. I told, and truth be told, I don't want to be on the stage with you. I want to sit with the audience and be an audience member. So this is how it's gonna be. So if I need the only way I could tell if you really learned it is do it on your own without my help. 'Cause I'm like, and he's a kid, I have to wake him up to the reality, like, you're gonna grow up one day, you're gonna move out your house, you're gonna get a job, you're gonna need to start a life. Mind you, I'm telling this to like a third grader. But I was like, you're gonna have a life of your own, and you really have to hold your weight. Now use this time to practice that. I don't know. It's like, I feel like when you tell people that, like, at least I was told that at a young age, or I've been made aware that this is gonna be at some point in my life. I'm moving out of the house.
Right.
I'm going to need a job. I'm going to need to pay bills.
Yeah.
So, and that's what people, I feel like we're coddling people, and we're just not like actually preparing them to be independent.
Oh, definitely.
We're not even letting them be independent in the environment that's teaching them independence.
Well, it's like, imagine
school,
if,
what I mean? Like,
imagine if there was a vending machine in the Sahara for lions to just grab a piece of meat. Like, what would that do to the lions? That's kind of what we've done to humanity.
Well, someone better be restocking that vending machine.
Yeah. So that opens up a whole other thing. I wanted to talk, because you're like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this. So I'll point something out, because we're talking about mental health and all this and that. Sometimes I'm just going to tell a little bit by myself, right? So sometimes I realize that my obsession with an idea is not other people's obsession. And I've had to like learn that and accept that. Like, sometimes I talk to Chad and I get a little heated, and he's like, dude, like, don't, like, chill out.
We learned it yesterday.
Yeah. Here's what I'd like Chad to understand. Let's be on the record about it, okay? Is that it's on me that it's my obsession. It's on me. And I need to do a better job of communicating things. But sometimes you just know in your heart that there's a bunch of distractions in this world, and it's time to focus. And so you can be doing this and you can be doing that, and we all should be busy. We all should be busy because we need to be strong on our own to be strong together. And that's a fact. That's a fact. But sometimes you get to an age, and I'm at that age where I understand that a lot of the stuff I've been doing in my life is noise. It's for having fun. It's for feeling accepted by people and wondering how they think about me. And all the stuff that we think about when we're younger that we realize when we're older is not important. It's illusory. It's in our heads. So I got frustrated and I said, man, we just need to get this shit done. I'm sick and tired of sitting on this project for so long because I know it has potential. And I got a little, and he snapped back at me, which was fine. But I think we're both right, which is that chill out. But then at the same time, it's like, let us figure out what is actually important and put some focus so that we have a nice foundation and a nice nesting egg, and we're not going through the same cycle every single day. One thing that I find that unfortunately is the case, I'll just speak for myself, that what happened was I saw so many fucked up things when I was a kid that I'm really desensitized to some of them. And I didn't really understand that. Like, I didn't really understand why I had to tone back my speech in this country a lot of times until later. Because I'm like, well, the people at home are rough. They're not like here. They don't think like that. They don't talk like that. And I need to calm down. But again, I'm going to tie it back to the coddling thing. The coddling thing has made people very sensitive to their detriment. So I'm gonna stop talking. I said a lot.
It's like it's I can relate to that. Not in a sense of what you went through in your upbringing, but in a sense of like I came up in a time, through school, especially when I was like I want to play drums, and my teachers that I've came across were at the time, I thought, like, man, these people are some bullies. And I'll shout out one person, like Craig Green, who was,
I thought you were gonna say he's the bully.
Yeah,
That's
no,
definitely
like
not
my
the bully.
sixth grade year, I thought this man was the meanest person in the world because he was. When I auditioned, he seemed like a very like you can look at when you look at someone, it's like this person is not to be trifled with whatsoever, and he was one of them guys. He if he sees this, he might laugh. But he never smiled, rarely smiled, I should say. And he was just always serious. He expected the best out of students. And he was like, for middle school, like you would see a guy like that, and it's like, man, this is an intense teacher for a middle school. But then, once he accepted me into his band program, because I had to audition to go to Johnston Middle School, which is now Meyerland. And, he was really, really rough. And at that time when, I would go home and I would complain to my parents, and I'm just like, man, this guy's mean. And my parents were more on the side of the teacher. Not that they didn't listen to my concerns or my complaints at all, but, there was a time when I didn't really take music all that serious. I wasn't practicing. I would just do the bare minimum, and I might have a mediocre performance, and my parents would be like, that didn't sound good, and doesn't sound good because you don't practice. And now I'm in an environment where this teacher who has no relation to me or no connection to me other than being my teacher is like really, really going in. And once I actually did take it seriously, he became more of a still my teacher, but more friend-like in a way, like someone who I actually began to admire a lot. And he taught me and all the drummers out of Houston, gave us so much, but he was really, really intense. And, and it's evident in, all the people like Eric Harland, Jamiria Williams, Chris Dave, like all these guys went through this person, and Sebastian Whittaker. Like, I remember one time Summer Jazz Workshop, it was like another teacher, and I played something out of pocket, like I was playing, and then I was trying to show off, and it was bad. and this guy told me to like go sit in the corner. I don't want to look at you. You know what I mean? Like
That's shit I was saying.
You know, yeah, and you know, like I'm once again, I'm in middle school.
Right.
Like I'm like 12 years old. I'm like, why would you
That would
do
hurt.
that? But you know, so now like I'm in college, and this is kind of when I started to see how sensitive everybody really is, and it's like some things I could just be like, okay, yeah, that's messed up, but a lot of things I'm like, so like for example, there was a time when you know, someone got criticized and that person didn't like it, and then that person would complain about it, and then the teacher essentially gets fired, or they have to undergo sensitivity training, all because they told you, mind you,
Right.
like it's funny because music is supposed to be subjective, but we can't be subjective about it, like where we can say that sucks.
It's subjective
that-
unless it sucks.
Or that sounds like shit. Or you know what, whatever. Like we just can't say it, but say that anymore.
We all
But
think it.
yeah, but we
I hate
all
that
think
shit.
it. Yeah, and I hate it too, mostly because it created this culture. One of my friends call it the yeah man culture,
Yeah.
and that the yeah man culture is when you know you had a session and you play a tune, and it was a sour experience for everybody, but usually one person that sucked. And then once you get up and you dap each other, be like, yeah, man, that was great. We got to get up. But in your head, you're like, I ain't playing with this motherfucker ever again. Like I don't want anything to do. That sucked. Usually, you see it now, I had to put a filter on myself. I had to be better, because usually when I don't enjoy someone, and you know this, my face shows it, which that's the one thing that just won't change. Like I can't act like I enjoy something, but usually I will probably say something too. That sucked. That was booty. Like no, like go home and shed or whatever. But now it's like I just don't say nothing, because it's not even at this point, and maybe you relate to this. It's not even worth the backlash or the going back and forth, you know, because it's just such a shame, because I feel like when we can finally be honest again, it's like we can have a higher quality of products, whether it's music or whatever. It opens up a sense of dialogue with people. It actually challenges people to, you know, you can either defend what you did and, you know, stand wholeheartedly, or give you an opportunity to learn something new, you know.
Yeah.
But we can't even have that conversation anymore, because we're in this cancel culture society, and if you say anything that hurts my feelings, which your feelings change as much as you change your underwear, I would hope, and because of that, we can't say nothing. We can't be honest.
I also feel like for me, like there's sometimes when I want to say something, and like it depends on the moment.
Mhm.
But at the same time, especially if you're like my peer or something, I'm also thinking like, man, I'm kind of just worried about me at the end of the day, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be like too big for my britches, because
Mhm.
I have plenty of my own shortcomings for whatever context we're in. So I don't.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking I don't want to be like, yo, you got to work on that,
Yeah.
when there are things that I have to work on. But I do think said the right way and with respect, and depending on the situation, like you gave me advice, which you have, I'm like, please tell me,
Yeah.
you know, like, and then if I need to give you advice on something,
It's so
then it
interesting.
works,
The
then it
other
helps.
day, I was watching Bobby Lee podcast, and he has a surrogate kind of niece on the show he brings on.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, the nieces were talking about how one of their cousins or whatever was getting fat, and their mom told him, hey, you're a girl. And mom told the girl, she said, hey, you're kind of getting fat, like you need to step it up or something like that, right? Basically.
Mhm.
And Bobby Lee and the co-host are like, oh my God, you told your cousin that she's fat? Like you and her mom said that, and y'all just said that like that? Like, what the heck? And she goes, Rudy, her name, she says, well, that's how we talk to each other. Like everything is out in the open. Like everything is out in the open.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, that's how it was in my family. Like if my mom was getting fat, everybody would tell her. Like, but in America, that's like shooting somebody in the head if you ever call them fat. You know, that's like the worst thing you could do is call someone fat.
You know what annoys me? I hate that we put phobic behind anything now. Like what what?
Right.
Like what does that even mean?
I feel like that got into my brain when I was growing up because I was definitely husky, as they would say growing up. And I was always going to the doctor because my mom always wanted to check on me. Not obese.
Right.
Again, very clearly not medically obese or anything, but like go to the doctor, get the cholesterol and shit checked. When I'm like 6, 7, 8, I was at the doctor, the lipid clinic, whatever, just getting a checkup. And I'm thinking, like, I'm in the room and I'm thinking it's serious enough. And I asked the lady, I was like, can kids get heart attacks? Like, is that what I'm in here for?
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
Concerned parent.
Good. Yeah. But then, you know, other people in the family would be like, oh man, you got husky. Stuff like that. And so then today I'm like, fuck, it's on my mind.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like, I think when people are just honest and, you know, obviously you could talk about delivery and that's another conversation, but I wish we can get back to that point where we can just say things without worrying about the backlash of whatever. And it's so, I'm not saying like, oh, you say whatever and
don't be rude. But
I mean, well, there's consequences to everything,
right?
So you know, I'm not saying like there should be no consequences, but if it's about something that is subjective, music, art, well, fitness is not subjective, but if you want to look a certain way, then I guess that is subjective. You know, yeah. That's an opinion. Someone just says it. Like, hey, you know, my friends tell me, like, I have gained some weight. I do have a little bit of a beer belly, which is why my shirt jacket is buttoned up. But you know, I came home and my dad saw me. I was like somewhere in the kitchen, living room, and I was putting some stuff away. He was like, "You need to get rid of that beer gut." Just say that I'm just like, you're right. Like I don't, like you know, Loki kind of hurt my feelings. Like, Dad, like okay, I get it. Like what?
So now let's think about that. So maybe he could have said it nicer, but he's right.
He's also dad,
and he's dad,
Yeah.
and it's for your health, and it's true, and you believe that, and you know that. So now you have two options. You can get triggered like a troll on the internet, which is what that is all about out there.
Yeah.
Or you can just be humble a little bit and realistic.
Yeah, but you know,
which one's more beneficial?
Yeah, well, just listen. Well, you know, I think that's why I feel like people get so caught up in the delivery and they're not, which the delivery is like surface level stuff. And you're not getting into the heart of like the actual substance of what is being said. Like
your message gets lost in the delivery.
Depends on how sensitive the person is. If you're talking to a person who's very emotional, they're just thinking about what you emotionally said to them, not what you logically said.
Yeah, and so for me, it's like I'm more of a logical person. Like I'm not, at least in my head, I would say something to you in the exact tone that I'm talking to, you know, you guys right now, which I don't feel like I'm being aggressive at all. But I would just say something, and it would be in the nicest way I can put it.
Yeah.
Like in music, it's like, hey, you know, you might want to consider working on some long tones. And then, you know, so one person who's probably not as emotional is like, you know, they might inquire like, oh, what do you mean? Like, what's, and then, you know, we get in a conversation about it, and, you know, we talk about music. Other people, I practice long tone. It's already getting defensive. Now, when people do stuff like that, like, oh, like use that example. Hey, practice some long tones. I practice long. I'm like, hey, I didn't say you don't practice long tones. I'm just saying, you know, I'm bringing this up because I'm hearing this, and, you know, I'm just trying to tell you, like, this is something you probably not focus on, and maybe you should look at. General example, you know, I've had peers, even in New York, tell me things. Like I remember one time there was a time I'd sat in at Smalls and during a jam session, and to be fair, I was highly inebriated, but we were playing. I think we were playing like One Finger Snap or something, and it was like the last song. And I get on. It was like a bunch of drummers trading on and off, and I get on and I got lost in the form, and I knew I got lost, and I just did whatever, and I got up. And the first thing, this guy, his name's Mike O'Day, he was like, "You didn't keep the form," and I was just like, "Yeah, I know." He was like, "Yeah, that's not good." Hey, and he kept going on. I'm like, I couldn't say anything because it's like, yeah, I did lose the form.
Yeah.
I should work on that. On the other hand, I didn't care because it's like, dude, I'm not in the right mind right now. You know what I mean? But it's
He's like, that's not good.
Yeah, but but what the respect I have for them is that the fact that he would come up and say that, because at least for me, if I was to do that to someone, in actuality, people thinking I'm being mean, but in actuality, I care enough to tell you, because there are some people I come across and they sound horrible, and they could have the potential to sound good, but seeing their mannerisms and attitude towards things, I'm like, you know what? I don't care enough to tell you about it because it's not even worth it with you. So
that's a lot worse. Yeah. It's like you don't exist.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, hey, that sounds mean. But
wait. You're saying because of their
maybe I am the problem.
You're saying because of their attitude, you're not gonna say.
Well, it's like when someone just don't have the capacity to just listen.
Yeah,
and it's like more trouble telling you something than to not tell you. And I'm like in a point in my life where if I don't have to deal with BS, I won't. So if I care enough, if it was placed on my heart to say something to you, whether it was a peer, and definitely with younger students, yeah, I'll say something. Like there was a time in Oldgerman, there was a lot of young cats that was playing, and I told one of them like, "Hey, great job," and because he was doing it right there, I was like, "Check," and I was like, "Check these records out." I didn't really critique them or anything, but I was like, "Check these records out," and I look forward to hearing that person again, and I look forward in the sense of I hope that person gets better. And then there's some other people. There have been other times, not just Oldgerman, I just use that as an example because that was a recent thing, but other times when it's like I see someone, they're playing and they don't sound good, but they have this attitude like they've arrived and they're like just the best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, I usually don't like talking to those people because like you have a wall that's protecting your ego and nothing is going to get through, and if it does, it's going to hurt your ego. And then usually what happens is, one, I become public enemy number one. And I don't know if like y'all often hear this, but I always hear things through the grapevine, like people in the city would be like, "Oh, Jerome's intimidating," or he's an a-hole, he's mean, he bullies people and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm not talking to you anymore because I tried to help. And I mean, and there has been people who's like that. Like there was one time there was a saxophonist, and that person asked me for help and advice, and I was just honest about it. It's like, hey, this is what needs to happen. You need to check this out. You need to do this. This is what you're not doing. Gave her, the whole list, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm the bully. So, and I kind of hate when people do that, at least for me, because like I said, I care about this music. I care about the Houston scene. I care about the reputation that we have before us, and I care about maintaining it. And, and maybe to the point where, okay, maybe I do come off intense, but I think we all of us in this room and beyond in the scene needs to like actually have a standard and reach for the high bar, and we can't get to that high bar if we're just allowing or just not making things go unchecked. This is why society is so messed up now, and like it just every way, whether it's music, clothes, fashion, you got what I mean, it's just everything. It's like things everybody's doing like all this wild stuff, and there's not a sense of like not community, but it's not I don't want to call it uniformity either. But you know how it is. It's like when there's something established in a culture, you just do what you can to maintain it. Like whatever word describes that. We don't have that right now, or that's not happening enough.
Social contract? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a little like key. Like
Yeah, like I'll give an example. Like I grew up going to church. At one point in time, we had something called church clothes, and you had your outside clothes and play clothes. So before we growing up going to church, my mom irons get my suit on. You go to church over, go home, might have or go somewhere to have your Sunday dinner. Then you get home, you take those clothes out, then you go outside. Nowadays, I see people wearing outside clothes in church, and it's weird. Call me old or old-fashioned, but that's weird to me. It never sat right with me. Some things, I could probably get with. Like I wore this shirt jacket to church, but I had a button-down shirt underneath and suit pants. But it's like there's no distinction between this event and this event. So that's kind of like what I'm saying. And plus, like in church now, people be wearing whatever. And back then, at least when I was coming up, if you wore something that looked funny, someone was saying, and especially if you were a woman, your dress too tight, trust me, a church mother is going to say something to you. Or if your dress too short, church mother is going to say something to you. It may be in a nice tone, like, baby, like, yeah, come as you are, but you're going to need to wear something more appropriate. Or they'll be like, you're showing a little bit too much. You need to go home and change. If something was said. And, growing up, that's why, like, at least in my church and other churches that I've played or gone to or attended, there was just like, this consistent standard that happens and that standard was held because people said something, and when you went out of order, you were checked.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, like just in anything anymore. It's like I'm supposed to accept things just because.
Yeah, it also kind of makes certain things special, and certain things, kind of delineates certain events or even like playing at a gig, like, depending on the gig. I mean, like avant-garde's one thing, but if we have a show at Monk's, it's like, yeah, we're going to look nice because there's something psychological about it, literally.
Yeah.
About the presentation, and it's put together, and like, I'm not going to wear basketball shorts.
Right.
I'm playing.
Yeah, well, my mom was like, but man, please do not look like a bum on the bandstand.
But
like,
on top of that too, like, I don't think that you have to wear a full suit and tie, crisped, to make the music like the perfect experience.
Yeah, I agree.
There's definitely a balance.
Yeah.
But I think that people know when you put thought into what you're doing.
Yeah, being intentional.
And then you can kind of have your own touch to it.
Yeah.
So my dad would always wear a suit jacket on the airplane because he was so old that flying was like a luxury when he was growing up.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of new, commercial flying.
Yeah.
And so every time we would get on a plane, he would always be dressed up fully, which is pretty funny in hindsight. And then I learned about that on Family Guy too. And then I saw it and I was like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of think about like what I'm going to wear, but not because, I think of commercial flying as so much as a luxury, but more because it's like, okay, what shoes am I going to wear? Which ones, like, it's especially if I have to take it off at the security, it's like, oh, I'm going to wear this, that, because so everything is all compact, and I won't lose anything between like the counter, the ticket counter, checking my bags, and TSA, and getting to my gate. So yeah, that's kind of funny. I never thought of it like that, you know.
Well,
But nowadays I see more people basically in pajamas.
yeah.
I'm like,
I'm also thinking, what if it crashes? What am I wearing? Can I swim?
that's
Can I
dark.
swim? Can I tread through grass and trees? What are my shoes right now? So I've stopped wearing Birkenstocks on the plane.
Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, you know, for me it's like I dress a certain way when I'm at home. Like if you see me in my I don't wear shorts often.
Mhm.
I actually own one pair of shorts. But I'll only wear them in the house. But if I'm like in public, like you'll see me dressed to an extent. And depending on the event, that determines like the effort I'm putting in the outfit. But like even in New York, like I don't wear joggers often, like, you know, just regular like black, you know, cotton joggers. The only time I'll wear it if I had nothing to do that day and I'm just like in the area, like, oh, I'm going grocery shopping or I'm, you know, running some errands. Then some people would see me and they'll be like, Jerome, how come I never see you like in just regular clothes? I'm like, well, one, you weren't supposed to see me today. And two, I'm not doing anything of significant importance to anyone but myself. So I'm in my own world. I'm just getting things done. But, you know, time to go to work, or even when I go to school, I mean, it feels weird like going to Juilliard, like, which is in Lincoln Center, and the area is nice.
Mm-hmm.
The facility, it's like a nice looking building. And I just look like a homeless person, like just wearing like drabby clothes in a very pristine, nice looking building. It's just, it's always weird to me. One thing, like even when I was getting my master's, University of Iowa, I was living in Iowa City at the time, and we would have this orientation for teacher assistants. And they would say, look, we don't have a dress code, but you should always dress apart from your students. And I really, really took that to heart. So when I was on the days that I was teaching, I'll make sure that I'm like business casual, not in a suit, but like button down shirt, you know, black jeans, you know, casual shoes, you know, maybe a jacket. Well, I definitely had a jacket because it's the Midwest. And that was that. You know, it was nothing serious, but it's always about being presentable.
Totally.
You know, and now it's like there's no delineation between presentable and non-presentable. And I'm not saying like in a sense of, oh, someone's in a suit or not in a suit, just the environment. Like avant-garde, that's like, you know, loose. You just come as you are, you know, it's just chill. Versus monks, where it's like, okay, this is more of like an event. People are paying $30 to come see you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna show up wearing a sweatsuit? Like, come on. Have some more respect for yourself and for the audience. You know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's an element of, you know, like overseas, I would say, even in Europe, even in the modern areas in Europe, there's a little bit more of a community feeling. A little bit more. It's not like the hustle and bustle of the United States. You need to live there a little bit to feel this. A lot of people don't understand when I say that, like when they are not traveled. It's like, listen to me. The whole hustle and grind thing, and wake up earlier than your competitor and do more than your competitor and all that shit, that is not how people live and think fundamentally on the other side of the world. That is capitalism. That is an effect of that culture, which is a good thing. It's beautiful. Capitalism, you know, I like it. I'm not saying I don't like it.
Yeah.
But what happens is people are thinking way more individualistically.
Yeah.
Here than overseas. It's just facts. I'm telling you right now. All the kids wrestle in the same mud piles overseas. That's not common here. It just.
I agree.
It used to be more common, but it's dwindling. So.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Especially, I've been to Eastern Europe only a couple of times, and there is that sense of uniformity, and in a way, it's refreshing to see. I imagine that people would agree towards certain common goals, and upholding certain values. And you don't really, but that's because I don't know. The mindset is more like community based.
Well, why do you think that people come to America to make money and then send that money to overseas? Because America is literally thought of a machine where you make money and become successful and do that.
Mhm.
It's not thought of a resort as a resort or somewhere to retire necessarily. There's beautiful places in America. But like my family came here to start a business.
Yeah.
Not because we were going to chill at Yosemite Park all day.
Yeah.
You know? And then what did they do when they retired? They went back home. You know? So this is like America's like a machine, man. And
It's the office.
it's the office.
Literally the
right.
office.
It's the
And
office.
Europe is
of-
the chill.
yeah. A
They're
little
chi-
bit. A little bit.
I mean,
They're-
they definitely work.
they definitely
obviously.
work.
But
There's
they
also
do
other
chill
things.
harder,
Yeah.
Mhm.
They do.
community
They
wise.
chill harder. Their school hours are shorter.
And things open later and take longer, and
Everything exactly.
like
It's
there'll be stuff just not open on.
there's
Sunday.
shit that's they'll close down and
Yeah,
when then
in
they're
Spain.
supposed to be open, they'll close down.
Yeah.
Like that's how they are over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
but you know what's funny? It's I like when you were talking about the school hours was shorter. I was like, man, you know that's insane because I remember being in high school. You know, we'll have foreign exchange students, you know, from everywhere: Portugal, Japan, Korea. I even think there was
Japan
one.
might actually be the real office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Japan's really intense.
Oh shoot, they get shit done. they really get things done, and they get it done fast.
You know?
But it's funny because every foreign exchange, I was always amazed by how smart they were. You know, just academically speaking. Like I struggle with math and science. Those were my two hardest subjects in high school, and you know I've always had a tutor. Like there was one guy from I think he's from Switzerland, and one of the things he did mention, he was like, yeah, our schools is much shorter. We don't like have this kind of system where it's just like just drilling like every day. And he was so like light years ahead of our grade. Like in trying to think what grade I was in. I think I was in the 10th or 11th grade. And granted, he was already introduced to the subject like a long time ago, and now he's getting and he's like on some other stuff, like things that you get to in college at you know 15 years old.
Yeah,
you know?
so the way it works, I can tell you because obviously I have family that goes to school there versus here.
Yeah.
By the first grade, you're doing multiplication division tables in Russia.
Yeah, that's
So you know what 9 times 9, all that stuff that you figure out in second grade. On average, I would say the curriculum in Europe, it sounds crazy, but it's like 3 or 4 years ahead of the curriculum in the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's on purpose because somebody designed that curriculum. So nobody tell me it's arbitrary. It was designed this way.
Mhm.
So a lot of the work is more about being in the right part of the assembly line. That's what a lot of the work here is. Whereas in Europe, it's like, okay, memorize that. You're tested. Now go chill. And it's way more focused and it way earlier. That, I believe, is giving them an advantage. That's why they're ranked higher in education.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One thing I noticed, they have much more of a awareness just of their own, I guess, cultural identity.
Who was
Then-
just saying this yesterday?
Mhm.
We don't really have culture here,
There's no culture. I say it
but
all the time.
obviously,
Well,
yeah.
I'd say there is a culture, but the culture is necessarily being neglected.
It's a created culture, kind of, right? Maybe.
yeah, I mean,
'Cause
like
it's
culture.
not like it's different here than it is Europe.
Yeah, I mean, of course it is. I mean, but I'm saying culture in the sense of like what was created in the United States. Like like jazz being the most authentic, contribution to the world. And I was teaching this to a class of 5th graders, and to just see what even if they have heard of it, and some of them have heard of jazz in New York, so given the environment, but no awareness of what it really is. And I've told the principal, I said I think that's concerning, because when I travel the world and all parts of different environments, like places like Mexico, Guanajuato, Guadalajara, Mexico City, to places like Minsk, Belarus, Portugal, Spain, France, they are very aware of the music. And I told them, like, I don't like the word cultural appropriation anymore, because I think if something was to be culturally appropriated, or go through that process so easily, is because the culture gets neglected by said people who comes from that culture. Like at least for me right now, it's like most African Americans, since people are calling this a Black American art form, jazz is a Black American art form, which it is. They don't listen to it. They just don't. And I went to school for this, and a lot of times, more often than not, I'm always the only black person in the ensemble. And why is that? Well, I could tell you for certain, for the most part, is that most people in the communities don't have an appreciation for jazz. They might listen to it and think nothing of it, but it's not like a lot of them will go out. I don't see them go out to listen to live music all the time, unless it's hip hop, which that's the big thing now. Not hip hop, rap, drill rap, R&B, neo soul, things of that nature. But but even Americans in general don't even know about the history of what is supposed to be American culture.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Whereas like you go to like, I'll go to Mexico, and I hear Mexican music everywhere, and I see Mexicans enjoying their own music, right, while at the same time, like one time, me and my good friend Armir Lee, we played in Guanajuato for the first time. We were playing at some venue, and we were playing Night of Tunisia, and we got to that little interlude section before you get to the solos. Da, 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 da. So once we got there, everybody was like singing that part at the top of their lungs over us. Didn't even hear the band anymore. I just hear people. And we all just stopped, because we were just such in shock of how much, not just the fact that they were enjoying our music, but for me, it was seeing people my age. I was 21 at the time. So it was a club full of young people, more like young people than old people.
Where was this at?
This was in Guanajuato, Mexico.
That's so crazy.
And it was like, man, they love the music. And, they're like, you see people like getting into it, like, or try to predict like where I'm going to land, like, it's like the enthusiasm was so there. And I've never seen anything to that level in the States. And, and it's sad because, like I said, when you're in Mexico, you're going to hear the music, their music, and you're going to see them get into that. Now, like that same night, like after the gig, we went to like, a salsa dance club, and it's like that club is packed to the brim. It is so packed. It was humid as hell. They had like a live band, and everybody's dancing, singing, just having a good time, going twice as hard as they was for the jazz music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, they love their own culture while appreciation, something that comes from someone. And it's not just them, it's like that in Europe, I mean, in Belarus, just about every concert hall we played was, packed, sold out. And meanwhile, like I remember, like one of the Karma concerts, they brought Wayne Shorter, and it wasn't sold out. You would think it would be sold out for someone who's contributed so much to this music, but but everybody shares the story. It's never the case anywhere else, that's more of the reason why we love playing over there. Just because we feel that type of energy or the appreciation for this music. Whereas here it's kind of like, because I feel like, because America, we're more about consumerism, and we want to really just consume whatever's the hot trend of the day. And jazz is not that anymore, and it never will be. And I have no interest in making jazz popular again, because there's always going to be a new thing. But we don't necessarily appreciate it for its historical significance, I think.
There's also a part of culture is enjoying culture. Part of culture is being like, we share this, we can celebrate it together. It's fun, it's unity.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in a consumerist country where it's about the hustle and bustle, and say hello, goodbye, it's nice to meet you, and then I'm gonna go home and whatever, OnlyFans or whatever. So there's a powerful like satirical AI clip of RFK, and he's like at a podium and he's saying, "I'm going to war." I can't say a lot of the things he said, but it was satirical. But one thing he said is, he's like, "We will not let America become an OnlyFans factory." And so, because everyone's just thinking bottom line, which is money. Well, the thing is, if you think about that being the crux of your existence, then you'll do anything.
Yeah.
You'll resort to anything because it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is this. So that's what happens.
I think it's kind of weird. Like, always, like, if I had to ask anyone the questions, like, what are we even doing this for at this point? Like,
We'll do what?
Like just the like, it's like we would not become an OnlyFans factory. Now I'm thinking like, okay, well, what are people doing anything for? Like, are you just doing it solely for the money? Which I think that's sometimes what separates people, from other countries. Whereas, like, here it's like, okay, yeah, money, create some sort of wealth. Like, I always growing up, hearing that, like, create wealth. But then it's like, okay, what are we creating this for? Is this for you and for your life, or is this for like things beyond yourself or bigger than yourself? Like you're saying, like, how your family came over here, worked their ass off, and they made their money. Now they go back and send it back, back home. Which I think that's like a beautiful thing, Yeah. And but because of like this society, and like I said, this capitalistic consumerism society, which I don't have a problem with. I actually prefer this more than much, but it's like the individual that I guess make it more about, okay, can we use this system and actually create something that's going to benefit society? Because you can do that here.
Yeah,
it's just that we're in this time now where no one does it.
I don't know if this is the right place to mention this, but that that young lady, I don't know how young she is or whatever, but the one that got viral for basically sleeping with the most number of guys or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So think about that. Think about that. That's like a beautiful example of where you only think about money and nothing else. So fundamentally, it was interesting because I actually watched a part of her documentary.
She has a documentary?
She has a documentary about doing her 100-guy challenge. And several times during the documentary, she's crying.
You know what? Okay, I saw clips of that.
Yeah. And so the guy is being very patient, is being nice to her. He's like trying to figure out what's going on with her emotionally.
Yeah.
And she, at some points, is unable to even emote what she's going through. She's just like, I just been through a lot. I don't know. That was a lot to. And then what's so fascinating is he asks her like, well, so what's one of the things that's bothering you? And she says, it kind of broke my heart. She said, well, I'm not sure if I satisfied a lot of those guys. So think about like just how much pain she's wrapped up in. Like she's doing this for attention. She's doing this for feeling like she can please somebody. She's doing this for the feeling of acceptance and love at the end of the day, but it's wrapped up in this really messed up obsession with the money.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, you just have this mental illness and scotoma and dissonance wrapped up, and it's making her cry, and she doesn't even know how to handle it. But then she comes back, she has a smile on her face and $1 million.
Yeah,
and so it's all good.
I did see clips of that. I didn't know that was a full on documentary, which why no one needs to see that. But
it's cringy to watch.
Because
you're like, girl, like you're not okay.
Yeah, well, for one,
So,
I mean,
I don't know.
let's just call this for what it is.
Yeah.
We're in a society now where I guess sleeping with a bunch of people is highly acceptable, and I judge no one for it. That's just not for me.
It's fine, but that's
it's
a whole new level. Though.
It's that, but yeah, but that's the extreme.
Yeah.
Of it. Like, you know, I was brought up like, oh, this was supposed to mean something. Now we're just relationships, whether it's friends, boyfriend or girlfriend, husband and wife. It just kind of lost meaning.
It does. It has
like a lot of meaning at this point. Nothing is sacred. I mean, even to the point where, like, a lot of times, like, say if I go into public and if I was, you know, looking to socialize with the opposite sex, I would look at the left finger, see if I see a wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine my surprise, or the lack of my surprise, when now I come to find out that some people just wear the wedding ring because they don't want no one to approach them, you know, or they want to be invisible. So it's like even people are using that just to shield themselves, but that's the norm. And you know that clip where, you know, she's being emotional and can't explain why. Well, no wonder. Like you were sleeping with a bunch of dudes on camera. Like we were kind of talking about a little bit of this last night, where we were saying like when you having an intimate relationship with someone, how that energy comes off on you and all that, and you know things grow on you, whatever that's on them, and you know vice versa.
Yeah.
And this woman had 100 of them.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure she's
losing it.
I'm sure you'll be crazy if you had a bunch of people, you know, that you were intimate with.
I want to mention something though, because what I've been fascinated with lately, as I dive more into psychology, is actually finding people with mental illness who have YouTube channels, because they say everything. The interesting thing about people that are going through things like that is they're very smart and they're able to intellectualize what is going on with them.
Yeah.
And explain it on a much, much deeper level than any psychologist could ever tell you.
Yeah.
When they're self-aware.
Yeah.
And so I found this one channel of an ex-escort, a woman that was a professional escort, and she's watching the Bonnie, whatever her name is, do the 100-guy challenge. And she's like going through everything that's going on with Bonnie, like her eyes, like her emotions, her crying, the things she's saying. She's like, well, she's saying that because the thing about sleeping with this many guys is you have to do preparation, and there's a thing that happens, blah, blah, blah. So there's all these technicalities she's able to see that I'm not even aware of. I can see that there's distress, but I don't know what the underlying thing is. And this escort is explaining all of it to me, and she also finally gets to this point where she's like, yeah, this person, Bonnie, is going to have a severe breakdown soon.
Yeah.
And it might even lead to her death. And so, like, people need to understand that this is all glamorous and fun and headlines, but this person, Bonnie, is not healthy.
Or she got arrested.
Bonnie?
Yeah.
For what?
Because it had to do with the dog
Oh,
in one of her videos.
wait, hold up.
Okay. Closing statements. We got through a lot. We can talk a lot. I unfortunately I have to wrap it up, but I want to keep
Busy
talking.
man right here.
I want to keep talking, but Jerome, you know, it seems like we're on the same page about pretty much everything. So, what can you tell the people? What do they need to know?
What do they need to know? What about anything?
Yeah.
Well, for the people of Houston, I would love to see much more support for not for what Houston Ensemble is doing and just what the music community is doing as a whole, because I really think it's beautiful, and I take so much pride in it, because this is where I came from. And coming up, there was a lot of institutions, and I say institutions in terms of like outside of school, that has really brought me up. And some of those places are not here any longer, which is sad. And I'm seeing new things that are coming up, new places that are opening, new opportunities. But we need a support. We really do. Because like I said, this is just more. It's more about the music, but it is about the culture. And like I said, if it gets neglected, then it gets taken up by someone else. And once that happens, we can't be out here saying like, oh, well, they're messing it up because they're doing this, and that. Like, you got to preserve it for yourself. We got to set that standard. We got to be honest and have that dialogue, and really have these tough conversations that we're having now. It's like we really need to get out of this place where, and it's not about saying, some off-color shit and no consequences. It's not about that, but we can't be in this culture of just not having a standard anymore. That needs to end, and it needs to end fast, because if it doesn't, we're going to be in a world of trouble. So support, have the high standard, keep shedding and keep swinging.
I like it. That's what I'm talking about, everybody.
Yeah.
Another beautiful episode, Houston Ensemble. Once again, everybody, please like, comment, follow, subscribe. We don't say that enough through the videos because we get wrapped up in the conversation. It's more fun than just do senseless promotion. But, the only way we keep this going is you guys subscribe. So we're featuring the best of the best out here. This is Houston Ensemble. Maybe one day Houston will be the new LA. We shall see. But till then, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.